Hey y'all. So we are starting a lecture on the reestablishment of the old order from 1815 to 1830. We have just finished a conversation about diplomacy, the concert of Europe, the how the Big Five has kind of created a Europe that will quash rebellions. We also discussed the idea of the Great Britain beginning this period of splendid isolation. But what we're going to do now, we're going to kind of look at the domestic developments within the confines, and we're going to find out that this is going to be the reestablishment of this old order. And the three countries we're going to focus on are Great Britain, France, and Russia. As you see in the back, this is the map of Europe in 1815 after the Congress of Vienna. And we kind of figured this is the age of Metternich. It's all about conservatism. But as you know, Great Britain's a little different. So let's go ahead and jump in. Our first part of this video is going to be about Great Britain. We're going to focus on Great Britain really from 1815 to 1820. We're going to define the old Tories. We're going to describe reactionary policies. And then we're going to talk about the aftermath. And we're really going to end this conversation in 1820, but we're going to linger. And I'm going to give you a detailed little bit that kind of helps with the future. But that's kind of what we're looking at. So let's go ahead and start. All right. So reactionary Britain. During the Napoleonic Wars, during the French Revolution, there was a drastic shift right. And in the 1790s, in the fear of radicalness, the old Tories seized power. So let's go ahead and define who the old Tories were. The old Tories are the conservative leaders of Parliament during the 1790s and the Napoleonic Wars. And these old Tories, they're reactionary. They're thinking about the good old days. They're a product of those pocket boroughs. The gentry really are maintaining the powers. When I think of the old Tories, I think of this traditional gentry, such as the pits. The pocket boroughs really allowed for the rural areas to have too much authority. We've talked about how the urban areas didn't have any much of a say. And the old Tories are all about maintaining traditional powers. In some ways, this could be part of that aristocratic resurgence. This could be the last part if you wanted to. And the one we're going to look at is the Corn Law of 1815. The Corn Law of 1815. The term corn in Great Britain means grain or wheat. So the Corn Law really deals with bread. So go ahead and put that down. All right. So give you the context of the Corn Law. The continental system that preceded this limited the amount of access the British had to corn or grain during the Napoleonic era. They could no longer get access to the grain from Russia or France. So there's a limited amount of grain, and that grain is controlled by the gentry. Think about the agricultural revolution. So think about that. So in the 18 around 1810, think about the drastic increase of wealth that the gentry generated because of the continental system. Well, in 1815, the continental system is gone. England is now becoming flooded with grain from Russia, France, and some of the other countries. And all of a sudden, the gentry's access to wealth is now challenged. So they go to Parliament and they begin to ponder, what can we do? And that's when they passed the Corn Law of 1815. This is such a reactionary law. The only group that the Corn Law benefited was the gentry. So this is what the Corn Law does. The Corn Law was a trade embargo on all grain products from Europe. So now the only access to grain that existed in England now is from the gentry. So what happens to the prices of bread? Yeah, they're unnaturally high. So clearly, the gentry benefit from this. They're going to have this very strong increase in wealth, and that's where we are. And clearly, you're going to start seeing the urban opposition. This dates back to John Wilkes. Think about the Lord Bute. Think about all of that chaos that occurred during the time period. the concept of there. So what begins to happen? London and Manchester leaders began to call for an end to the Corn Law. The real wages had dramatically decreased as townspeople saw the cost of bread drastically increase. No longer were their wages allowed them to really survive in some ways. So it created a series of riots, as you see a political cartoon here. You see the No Corn Laws. Print culture, but the leaders there began to print out stories and cartoons that really incited the emotions. And really, this is that concept that there's no electoral reform. This parliament is now passing laws that benefited only the gentry, and there's a sense of frustration. Parliament feared that volcanic element that might be inspired to rebel. So they're worried about that these rebellions are going to turn into a revolution. So what do you do here? Parliament can either begin to think about progressing or regressing. And of course, since we're talking about reactionary, it's going to be the opposite. And we're going to get to this thing called the Peterloo Massacre of 1819. This occurs in St. Petersfield, Manchester in 1819. The reason we call it the Peterloo Massacre is because there were quite a few soldiers in St. Peter's field at this moment that fought at Waterloo. Remember, they fought for liberty, they fought for progress, they fought for against tyranny of Napoleon. So now these are the urban soldiers who are there because they're organizing a peaceful protest organized against the Corn Laws. They're like, hey, we have no say, we have no political voice, so let's begin to kind of get together. What are we going to be able to do? Well, Parliament got really fearful that a large group of former soldiers were convening in the middle of Manchester, and they feared that this was going to create a revolution. Think about it. This is over bread. This is over that. They're thinking about the more recent history of maybe the storming of the Bastille, thinking about the Women's March on Versailles, and they're like, oh crap. So what they do, they call their cavalry to attack. And their cavalry goes in and literally attacks. And there's going to be 12 people, I believe is the number, that are killed, including a woman and child, a baby. And this is a complete overreaction by Parliament. The government is using government forces to attack their own people. Many of these soldiers many that are injured, up to 600 that are injured, many of them are soldiers of Waterloo. And so what happens? Print culture then makes this into what they call the Peterloo Massacre. It was meant to re-engage people, think about what liberty is, what they have sacrificed. And so now all of a sudden you're now on this verge of, is the big question, is England now going to have a revolution? You said Watts, earlier said that evolution, not revolution. Well, these reactionary old Tories have really stopped this evolution, have shifted because they're trying to consolidate powers. So what are they going to do? Well, they passed the 6 Acts of Parliament. And the 6 Acts of Parliament of 1819, these are 6 restrictions of public liberties. The 6 Acts of Parliament, it's the first time since 1688 that Parliament restricts civil liberties of the British citizens. One of the restrictions is freedom of press is quashed. The freedom to convene or to petition, quashed. Things that you and I might say as natural liberal rights are now being quashed because Parliament doesn't want the urban areas to revolt. So what we see now, as we conclude, the gentry are resisting any form of real change. The old Tories are focused on consolidating power rather than progressing Britain. And we could see a revolution, but by 1822, there's a group of young Tories. The young Tories are going to be the new generation of conservative leaders, and they're going to return to Burke's conservatism. That's going to usher in a series of minor but key reforms. And ultimately, this is going to create the framework for the Great Reform Bill of 1832. And that's going to be the turning point. So what we see here, what we need to make sure you understand, from 1850 to early 20s, Great Britain is reactionary. The old Tories maintaining power. We are on the verge of revolution. But thankfully for Great Britain, the old Tories begin to die off. By 1822, the young Tories, a younger generation of conservatives, begin to say, hey, we need evolutionary change, not rapid. They create some key reforms, and it really allows for the framework for the Great Reform Bill of 1832. And I hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to pause this, and you guys can get to the exit ticket if there is one available.